having a nice white wall, that is good.
Yeah,
white wall
definitely.
is great.
Yeah, it's visible for everyone.
Welcome to Architecture Corner. Today we have two guests, Nina Lundström and Catharina Zetterberg, and we will talk about Agile project management. A few days ago there was an article on LinkedIn where they said you don't need a program office when running Agile projects. You are project managers, both of you, and are you needed?
I would say as a project manager, the ultimate purpose is to dissolve yourself, at least in the future. Right now, I would say that most organizations are not really there. If you have teams that do have enough of mandates and also do have a view across the entire organization, you wouldn't need neither a program office, a project office, or program managers. But as long as you have some optimated organizations, we're needed to do the coordination in between the different departments and to make sure that everybody gets a say on what's being done and when it's being done.
Nina, do you have the same view?
Yes, definitely, because it's dependent on the organization that you work on, and the customers aren't so used to these agile skills at the moment.
So a day in a life for both of you, when you are both working with Agile projects, that's correct?
Yeah.
And a day in life for you is not the ideal world. How is it today?
Well, it's a lot of discussions to make sure that everybody is in the same pace. It's a lot of getting the oil in the project and getting the oil of the organization to work as fluently as possible so you get the full speed ahead. So it's a lot of coordination, I would say, so far.
You talked about coordination, and where's the difference in coordination between waterfall projects and Agile projects?
It's a huge difference because using a waterfall project, you coordinate the entire scope at once. And it's a long-going coordination all the time. And using Agile, you have small, different coordination tasks during the entire project, and you have to put in a lot of other type of resources and a lot of other types of, how you coordinate it. You do it by a daily basis all the time, so you get the result that you want in the organization. And it's dependent on all the small parts of the Agile project. You have small tasks, and you have to fix that task. And then you take another task and another task. And compared to a waterfall project, you coordinate all through.
So it's the critical path that you had in a traditional project management.
Yeah.
That's what you coordinate on.
Yeah. So in the Agile project, you have more small tasks, and they can change depending on what reality puts in and puts out, and you can steer towards the other tasks if you have another reality that runs around.
When you have Agile projects, Catharina, how many people are there in this project? Because I know that some people say that when you're running larger programs, you can't run Agile.
I'm running an Agile program myself right now, and it's Agile because it covers the entire organization, but it's a small team. I would say you can run Agile even if you have larger teams or if you have many teams, but it takes a lot more of coordination. Just like Nina says when we were talking about comparing Agile to waterfall, Agile will take a lot more anchoring, and if you have several teams, you would need to coordinate and anchor also in between the teams in case there are any dependencies. Agile for me is a lot about, in this program at least, to anchor the outcome all the time, because in a waterfall method, you have all the specifications done in the beginning, and when they're decided on, they're not really changed. If you must change them, then you must have a change request. When you're running Agile, you're just setting the basic setups in the beginning.
You plan the different
Right.
steps.
And then you need to anchor all the minor steps all the way, pinning up the details as you move along. And it takes a lot more coordination and a lot more anchoring.
So you have more to do as a project manager in an agile program than in a traditional.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of, totally different kind of setup. And I think Agile is much more fun. I love Agile.
So it's more about communication than planning. If you are, so it's not a program leader or program manager, you're more a communication manager.
Yes, I would say communication is the alpha and the omega of Agile. Actually, I'm lucky enough to have a communications expert in the program that I'm working now, and I use her a lot to help me specify what needs to be communicated, how it's to be formulated, and when it's to be communicated, and through what channel.
I'm part of a large transformation program in UK where we are developing new business processes but also adding new IT system. And there is a lot of different skills to be needed during different times. So this is a little bit more than a normal agile development project. How would you run a project like this in a more agile way?
I think it's very important that you have the supporters of this program available and that they are onto what we are going to do to achieve. And then also try to secure the kind of resources that you need during these phases for the entire program, and that you have the organization with you. It's essential to have that if you're going to run this as an agile program, because otherwise you wouldn't succeed.
All right, and another thing, make sure that the steering group is actually working for you, not controlling you from the top, but working for you as a PM. They're supposed to be your helpers, really, and they need to understand that they are the program's ambassador. This is really important. They need to understand that they need to do some heavy work in order to get the rest of the organization to not only accept what you're doing, but to think it's a good thing.
The challenge I see with large programs is that it's very much coordination between the different teams, even if the developers are working agile. And is agile that scalable so it can be used for large programs, or is it just an utopia?
I think it's worth trying at least, because I think it depends on the organization. If they are common to use it and they want to use agile methods, I think you have a strong position to succeed with it. But if you have people that's not into agile, I wouldn't recommend it. But you have to have them with you to succeed having large programs in using agile, because it's not only the ordinary coordination, it's coordinating throughout maybe different parts of the company, different organizations, and then you have to have everybody with you.
And I think it actually makes stuff easier if your program or project is one of the highest top priorities of the company.
It is.
Yeah, right. Because that makes it that much easier to work agile. Also, because it will make sure that you will get help in overcoming obstacles, in getting the help you need to solve problems, and you will get it pronto.
So you talk a little bit both about the skills that are needed within the project group that is running an agile project. Is that something that is much more important when running agile than running ordinary projects?
I think so, because you have a very tight time limit usually, and you don't have the time to get people to educate themselves. You want to have the skills when you need it, because it's going to be now, not in 2 weeks or 3 weeks when they have the skills. So it's important to have the right people at the right moment. So it's quite a lot of planning.
And also to be able to keep the team intact, because every time you have to exchange a team member, the team slows down. And it takes a bit of time to get, even if it's a skilled person, it takes a bit of time to get them up and running and understanding what is this program or project all about, and what is my role here, and how am I to work this. So trying to keep the team intact, getting skilled people from start and keeping them all the way out, I would say is very important.
Do you see any differences if you run an agile program as a part of a service contract where you are making small improvements to existing systems or adding a lot of new functionality when they want something completely new? Is it a huge difference here?
I think so, a little bit, because using it in AM organizations, it's very useful, because then it's usually are very small tasks that's going to be done, and you can do it very, very quickly because you already have the people knowing the customer's site and knowing the customer organization. So it's very easy to get things done in an agile way in that kind of an organization.
Yeah, I would say the difference between a project with a very clear scope, or clearish if you're talking agile, and in service management, for example, is that I would say it's easier to take in new people in the team in service management, at least because you have stuff in there. There's so little that they can start with it and then get the hang of it as they go.
Yeah.
In a project, you usually don't have.
You don't have that start phase.
Right.
When running agile projects, do you need different skills from the project members compared to other projects?
I would say partly and partly not. And I would also like to stress the fact that the important thing is to have the people with the right attitude and to keep the team together. Because every time you change a team member, the team crashes down, it loses velocity, and it could actually risk the whole program or project.
So in the last episode we talked about requirements, and if you have too many requirements the project will be too long. Is that something you see when you're running your programs in an agile way, that it's too long time?
No, I would. My spontaneous reaction as agile program or project leader is I don't really understand the question, because you can add on new requirements the whole time.
You don't have a deadline, or you don't have a bunch of requirements.
Of course you have.
You have a bunch of requirements.
Of course you have a deadline, but I mean the requirements
static.
are not set.
Yeah.
Right, they're not static,
Yeah.
and they change. And as long as you have somebody who does the prioritization of each and everything that comes in, it doesn't matter, because when you reach the deadline, you're done with this much. And if you have an efficient team with high velocity, you will have done a lot up to that date. Yeah. If you have a slow team, or if you have an organization around the team that doesn't work agile, that changes team members for you, then you would have a slow velocity and you would have achieved less.
You are working more with new implementation of new functionality, and Nina is working more with service management.
Yes.
What's the difference with the agile approach for you because of these different setups?
Well, I think that I have smaller parts all the time, because using agile in the service management organization, you use it daily because you have small different changes all the time. So running it in agile, it's working very, very much better for solving the problems or solving the small projects. You get much more things done, because I have my team and they work very fluently with all these tasks during the day. So we get a lot of more things done, and it's much more viewable having the whiteboard with all our tasks and all our small projects or large projects, and sometimes also. So I think it's much, much better.
So it's more natural, you say?
Yeah, I think it's like more oil in the machinery. Yeah.
And you don't need to budget for large things. You have a budget that is, and you have a number of people there is, and then you just tick one
part off after another. Yeah. And depending on the prioritization, you maybe sometimes switch parts from each other,
and you put each part in production after each other, so it's real agile.
Yeah.
But is it the same for you, that you put new things in production every second week, for example?
I wish. Not really. Specifically not in the program that I'm leading at the moment, where we are exchanging platforms for 23 different databases. And this is all going on in parallel. We have situations, I'm on a different level. I mean, you're working in the details.
Yeah.
I have whole databases that I need to change. So our plan is basically, okay, we have this time lap for this database, and this time lap for this database, and that time lap for that database. And we're working with the planning on a very high level. And the planning in the beginning, when we start working with it, is, okay, we're having this platform, and then we work the details. So we're working agile, but on a different level.
Yeah.
We're having situations in this program where we have had, we've been anchoring the solution left and right. And then there was the summer vacations, and come autumn, both the IT department and the people in the business using the platform and the database came back and said, no, we've been thinking during the summer, we don't want this platform, we want another platform. So we had to do a replanning, and that's agile, but on a different scale. Had we had a waterfall project, we would have set the solution, done all the specifications, and it would have been a catastrophic situations if they were to change the platform in the middle of that.
So the difference between waterfall and agile is more the level of detail on requirements from your perspective in this case?
Yes, actually it is.
So it's a waterfall with only high-level requirements. If we change the platform?
Yeah, high-level requirements, right.
Yeah.
We'll change the platform. So, okay, fine. So we'll adapt to that. We'll take in different type of skill in the team and extend the team rather than just closing that part of the project and scoping it out. Because that would have been the alternative.
It seems that you are needed as a project manager in this case.
In this case, I am, yes.
And what about you? Are you needed?
I hope so.
Or you can go to Caribbean?
I would like to go to Caribbean actually, but I don't think that the technicians that I work with at the moment would appreciate if I leave, because it's a lot of small things during the day that has to be handled, mostly structural, on agreement levels, stuff like that, and making them have all what they needed to do their good job. So I'm more like pulling oil into their machinery so they can do their stuff at the most best way, actually.
Yeah. So my conclusion is that we'll need project managers in agile projects today. We need them in the future when we're doing larger things, because then we need some coordination. Is that a correct understanding?
I think so, because we are not so agile in the organization at the moment. Maybe, I don't know how many years it will take to get an organization in an agile thinking, working way. Maybe then, but we're not there at the moment. Definitely not.
So thank you very much, both of you. It has been really good to have you as guests at Architecture Corner.
Thank you.
And hopefully to see you again. Thank you very much for viewing this episode of Architecture Corner. Hope to see you again next week.